You're listening to The Dating Den with dating and relationship badass and best-selling author Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important dating, sex, and relationship issues you want to know about. So if you're ready for true talk that's authentic and unfiltered, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
The Dating Den with Jana Danielson. If you gave up on Kegels, try this now for more pleasure in your love life. Ladies, welcome into the Dating Den. I was just taking this writing class and they said, you got to have they call it the porch for an essay. And the porch is like this line that hooks them. So here, Jana, who's my guest, my hook. Yesterday, I got in the mail something that's called the Cooch Ball. Are you intrigued, people? So I have the founder of the Cooch Ball here with us and the Gooch Ball, Jana Danielson. Has a story in which her own health issues were the catalyst for a career shift over 12 years ago. She was in the corporate world doing corporate consulting, and now she is a wellness entrepreneur. Pilates changed her life. In 1999, she went to her first Pilates mat class. She had a lot of undiagnosed pain, and she was, and I can get this from my own back injury, really struggling to find the magic cure. What is a different approach can help me deal with my pain? And 4 months later, that's what happened. Her pain was gone, and she found her calling, and she opened her first Pilates studio in 2010, and she expanded in 2015, so she's a mega mogul entrepreneur, and also integrated a health therapies clinic. And now she has a team of instructors, administrators, and clinicians that are going to be amongst the top 60 by the end of 2021. She also launched her pelvic floor fitness tools, which is where we get to the Cooch Ball and the Gooch Ball. She is a believer in wellness from the inside out, and I am so excited that you are here.
Thanks, Marni. I am really excited too. And I'm so happy that your Cooch Ball made it to you A-okay.
It did. I was like, first of all, I texted my husband. I'm like, did you order something called a Cooch Ball? And he was like, no, what he actually said, Jana, was really funny. He's like, it's good. Yeah. And I was like, what the hell? And then later he was like, actually, I have no idea what this is. I did not send it to you. So I was so excited and just super intrigued by the entire thing. So we'll get there. Let's just talk about sensual health and integrated health and how do these impact our confidence? And I think that this is a really interesting question because so many of the women that we talk to want this relationship, and yet there's some piece around sensuality, sexuality that is often kind of laying underneath the surface that is part of their healing.
Yeah. And, Marni, one of the biggest messages that I want your audience to, learn and take away from today's episode with me is I am all about redefining. Let's take what society has taught us or what magazines or billboards have shown us, and let's redefine it so it actually works for us and we can be inspired by real women to, first of all, understand our body, be inspired by different women's stories, and then take action to actually start to change our own body from the inside out. So here's the first thing I want to share is that, in my opinion, health and wellness for women, well, actually in general, let's just say it that way, has been what I call a pieces approach. And so unless we were like potato head dolls where we could put on our big sexy eyes for date night and, our arms for our little black dress, and then, we're helping our friends move, so we put on our big arms, that's the only time a pieces approach works to health and wellness. Our body is a series of systems. We have a nervous system, a skeletal system, a lymphatic system, a digestive system, an elimination system, a circulatory system. And here's what happens, ladies, is that when we take this pieces approach, we start actually creating asymmetries and dysfunction without even knowing it, because we're working on parts. And instead of working on parts, if we worked on systems, and I believe, our sensuality, our sensual health is a big part of that system, we would see how we would come more into alignment with, our mindset, our spirit, and how we feel about our body. So, the pelvic floor is something that I'm extremely passionate about. And it took me years and years of working with thousands of women who would not even talk about it, like to another woman, that, they might cough a bit or pee their pants, or, they kind of cringe when it's time to get intimate with their husband or their partner because they know it's going to hurt like hell, but they want to give themselves to their partner without any pleasure for themselves. I kept hearing these stories over and over and over again. And I was like, what? We need to do something about this. And so that, that really, I hope, sets the stage for my approach and my strategy when it comes to helping women feel their sexiest. It does have to start from the inside and then permeate out.
I freaking love that. I love that. I don't think I really got that until right before lockdown. I got in a ski accident and I fractured 7 places in my sacrum, and which was a really impactful injury, traumatic injury. What I learned as a result of recovering from that is exactly what you just said, that when one part of the system gets impacted, it impacts everything. It impacted my hormones. It impacted my physicality. It impacted my digestion, my elimination, literally everything. And I had to do a system approach to actually start to recover. I mean, it was literally like rebuilding from the ground up. And yeah, the first time I remember I was with my kids at a jumping trampoline place in Arizona on a vacation, and I was jumping and I peed, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, does this happen? I said to my cousin, who's 8 years older than me, I'm like, have you ever, that ever happened to you? She's like, oh my God, all the time. Welcome to adulthood. And I was like, oh my God. So we're going to talk about it here. So let's talk about the pelvic floor. So first of all, explain it. What does it mean? What does it impact, and why do we need to pay attention to it?
Okay. So visualize this. Visualize that you just ate the juiciest apple and you have the core of the apple left. The core has the stem on top, and of course the bottom of the core, and then the cylindrical part of the apple, which you've eaten most of the flesh. That's the apple core. Our core works very much the same way. And why I'm setting this up and framing it this way is a lot of women don't realize that their pelvic floor is a part of their core. So we've been taught, or we've been told, if you need, you want to have a strong core, you should do planks or sit-ups, or in my world, Pilates is great for the core. But here is why, again, going back to these are systems, ladies. They are not pieces. Listen to this map. Visualize this if you can with me. Our diaphragm is our main muscle of respiration. It's the main muscle that breathes for us. This muscle is located in the crest of your rib cage, basically. So think of an opened umbrella or a mushroom cap sitting, at the base of your rib cage. That's literally what the diaphragm looks like. That's the roof of our core. Now, here's what's so spectacular about our body. The pelvic floor is the floor of our core. And it sits, between our legs. It's a sexy muscle. It's a functional muscle. Our children we have to, bear children through there. We have surgeries. We have all these things, right? And so, but here's something that is going to absolutely change the way you think about your body. Did you know and understand that your diaphragm, because of where it's positioned, and your pelvic floor, because it's directly under the diaphragm, they work in conjunction with each other. So ladies, I am like a teenager of like the late 80s, early 90s. And so if you are one of, that pedigree, you'll remember the days of laying on your bed with your acid wash jeans with a coat hanger zipping up your zipper because they were like the tighter the better, right? Do you
Yeah,
remember doing that? Yeah.
I do.
And so what we were doing was, we were fashionable at that point, but we were also taking away a lot of space. Like our organs actually had to be displaced, upward, usually is what happens. And so because of fashion or because we've been told as women we're supposed to like suck in our bellies and be as narrow as we can, or there may have been, we may have experienced trauma, sexual trauma or any sort of physical trauma. As women, we carry a lot of stress and tension in through our pelvis. So here's what happens. Even though breath is the first and the last act of life, somewhere in between, we forget how to do it. And that diaphragm, that main muscle of respiration, instead of being like that really strong open umbrella or that mushroom cap, it kind of gets a little wilty. And what happens by the fact that the pelvic floor and the diaphragm directly speak to each other, the pelvic floor will start to become dysfunctional as we start to be less efficient breathers. All right. So if you are someone with a lot of stress and anxiety and you breathe into your collarbones, or you find yourself holding your breath, or if you are you grip your jaw or clench your teeth at night, there's a very good chance that if you experience pelvic floor dysfunction, which could range from coughing and peeing your pants to, not having to go pee, and then you get into your garage and you're getting into your house and it's like, right now I have to pee. We call that urge incontinence, pain, any of that can be fixed, or you can start your fix with proper breathing, concepts and strategies. And then the cylinder of our core, you guys, we have our six-pack muscle that lives right under the skin right under our skin. So if we have a low enough body fat percentage, you'll be able to see that muscle. Then we have two muscles that make a great big letter X, the internal and external obliques. And then our transverse abs start at the back of our body, our low back, and they wrap us like a corset. The pelvic floor and the transverse abs are BFFs. If you understand how to properly be standing in your posture when you're in high heel shoes and how to properly be breathing, girls, it really is a simple concept. Just because you're a member of the P Club, you can rip up your lifetime membership card, because once you start to understand these very simple concepts, with minutes a day, you can start to change your body. And you know what that does is your confidence level and how you show up in this world is going to transform.
Wow, that's amazing. I was like imagining all of those pieces working together. And so when you think, I love this idea about how breath is so important. And it seems like most people forget to breathe. Like they only breathe when, they have to. What is one thing we can do to start to be aware of this, or to start to shift it?
Yeah. So the concept of diaphragmatic breathing, ladies, is really simple. And here's how I kind of teach it. If this is the one thing you take away, it will start to make an impact in your life. So you're inhaling through your nose, like you just took out fresh baked chocolate chip cookies out of the oven, and you want to smell those chocolate chip cookies. So you're actually inhaling through your nose and not taking a fast, big breath, but a slow, like you're enjoying the aroma. And you're actually trying to get breath deeper down into kind of the belly button area. You should feel your torso kind of fill with air. All right. This is key here. On the exhale, the breath is going to leave your body just as slowly as it did on the way in, but the exhale almost has like an HA sound, or like if you were fogging up a mirror, it just is like a, and in that moment, the belly button kind of melts back toward the spine, the ribs get a little bit softer, and it's in that moment that if you envision, and this is going to sound funny, but it works for so many women. If you envision at that moment of the exhale phase of breath, picking up a grape with your vagina, and you don't want to squash that grape. And then on the inhale, you put that grape back down. And on the exhale, you pick that grape back up. Now what we've created is a diaphragmatic breathing situation with pelvic floor activation. So now we're training that diaphragm and that pelvic floor to once again speak to each other clearly and confidently. And ladies, you can be doing this at a red light. No one even has to know, in line at the grocery store, no one has to know you're doing your pelvic floor work. It can be very subtle. And so that really is like, if you visualize the, like a Roman arch, this is the keystone. And if you can understand this concept, it can absolutely change your life.
So back when I was younger, it was Kegels or Kegels. Yes. Is this the same? Is that the same thing that we're talking about?
So the way I like to frame, how I teach about pelvic floor. So yeah, like a Kegel is, what I had 3 boys. So as soon as I gave birth, right, I was told to squeeze the vagina as if you're stopping the flow of urine and then let it go, right?
Right.
Squeeze and release, right? So yes, does that activate the pelvic floor? 100%. But let me put it to you this way. So Marni, if you came to me and said, Jana, I've got a wedding this summer, I want to get, a little bit more definition in my arms, I would never say to you, all right, Marni, walk around your house and then make a fist and make a bicep muscle and let it go. And make a bicep muscle and let it go. I would never get you to train that way. So that's why, we have to look beyond the Kegel. The Kegel can be, in some cases, depending on who's teaching it, it can be taught like a light switch: on, squeeze, off, let go, on, squeeze, off, let go. But it actually, what happens to the function? Like when we're picking up a box of books, we need that pelvic floor to descend and then ascend. It's a process. It's not a 1-2. There's got to be a crescendo and then the way back down. So, I mean, yes to Kegels all day long. However, if it's a forced clench and release, you're actually not teaching function. You're playing into the dysfunction, because someone whose pelvic floor is already too tight, you might be creating more tightness versus fixing the issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah, it speaks to this thing that you were saying where we can't treat our body in parts.
Right. Exactly.
And there's no context. So yeah, that's super, super interesting. Yeah. And let me ask you this. Why, because I know you say, it's important to focus on these things as we age. So why does aging and how does aging impact this to where, it's can become a problem that we actually need to put attention on?
Yep. So I think there's 2 main reasons. First of all is our posture. We don't understand how critical posture is to our musculature. So think about if you've ever driven, down in a rural area and you notice like an old house or an old barn and it's kind of leaning over to the side, it's the structural integrity is gone, right? And so a heavy wind or a heavy storm might blow that structure down. Our body is really similar to that. So if you've been someone who has been at a desk for decades and decades, and you kind of have become that forward rounded, schlumpy posture, even if you just try this with me now, everybody, it's almost like you tuck your tailbone between your legs and you kind of drop your chest down toward your belly button and imagine that you're typing away. And maybe some of you are like, Jesus, like this is where I am like 90% of my day. Over time, our bones in this position, first of all, we're taking away space from all of our functionality, like our digestion, our circulation, all of that. So people that have a lot of digestive things are sometimes a function of posture, because look at the space we're taking away. Imagine 50 people packed into an elevator versus 2 people in an elevator. When we're sitting with this schlumpy posture, that's what our organs feel like. So over time, with improper posture, just literally living on a planet with gravity, the force of gravity into our body can start to create dysfunction in our pelvic floor. So we we think it's a part of the aging process that, okay, now, or I've had my babies, or now I'm going into menopause, therefore I should be experiencing this. And it doesn't not have to be that way at all. Is that this is a group of muscles. And if we want to work them, we have to make sure our bones are in the right space. So learning how to be sitting and standing properly is actually quite critical to pelvic floor health. The other piece, aside from posture, is just, we are inundated with commercials and advertisements around products that we are set up to believe we need to start using as we age. And, it's sad in a way that we buy into that. But ladies, remember this, like, this is muscles. So when you think about in most cases, I saw a research study that said that in 90% of pelvic floor cases, dysfunction in men and women, 90% of those cases, it's actually a fitness issue, not a medical issue. So yeah, in 10% of the cases, right, you might need a surgery or something, but in 90% of the cases, you guys, it's a fitness issue. And guess what that means? We get to be empowered because now it's not a medical issue. We can do something about it. So those are the two main reasons that I believe we kind of go down this road, and then we just believe it's part of aging, and it doesn't have to be.
I love this so much. I was thinking about this because when I had my accident, it was like I recover from an eating disorder and body dysmorphia and all this stuff, right? And I really got it in such a huge way after my accident that because when I was going through menopause and then I was inactive and then I created a system where I had osteopenia, which is like right before us. Anyway, all this shit was going on. I'm like a very fit, healthy, active person. And I realized I don't really give a shit anymore about what size pants I wear or any of those things. I'm like, here's what I need. I need muscles that are strong, that will allow me to be able to walk, and that I create strong bones, and that I have a musculature and food and my heart and all those things so that I can just walk and be active and do things like, I was afraid after my accident. They said if it would have been like a millimeter that I would have lost bladder function, So I really get this. And I really see from doing this work in my own life over the last 9 months of my recovery that it really is not about, how many hours of cardio can I do, right? Or, whatever that is. It's really more like, how can I create this systemic body as a woman that is going to allow me to express who I am in the world for as long as possible. And I think, right?
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, because I'm just like, my whole self can't be expressed if I, am getting smaller mentally, physically, emotionally. So I think this is so huge. Okay, because we have to talk about the Cooch Ball.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a pelvic floor fitness tool. Talk to me about this.
So I did some work probably about 10 years ago or so with a urogynecologist from Reno named Dr. Bruce Crawford. And he really, you guys remember the movie Jerry Maguire? Like, You Had Me at Hello?
Yes.
It was one of Jerry Maguire moments where I saw him speak at a conference, and he started off his presentation by saying, millions of times a year, North American women push a watermelon out of a straw, and we expect them to be in their skinny jeans pushing their fancy little carriages the next day. And I was like, yes, brother, that's right. We do, expect that. And that's how he led into the pelvic floor. And his research, he's a urogynecologist. He does pelvic floor, surgeries with mesh, pins up the pelvic floor, sends women on their way. And his story was he started seeing the same women in his surgical room 2 years, 3 years after an original surgery, getting the exact same procedure. Started asking his friends, are you guys noticing the same thing? His other fellow surgeons. And their answer was yes, but do your job and send them on their way. And he started questioning, like, is this right? Why we're not educating these women. We're just fixing passively and sending them on their way. And it got me thinking that truly, if 90% of women and men that have pelvic floor issues, if it is not medical in nature, what could we be doing to ensure that we can create function and longevity and health from the inside out in this area of our body? And so as a Pilates instructor, I knew things from my training. There's a big piece of fascia. Fascia is connective tissue on the outside of the leg between the knee and the hip called the iliotibial band or the IT band. Lots of runners will experience knee pain because their IT bands are so tight. So what is the fix? You get a foam roller and you roll on your foam roller. And we see this all the time. And I was like, if we know that a muscle needs healthy, nutrient-rich, oxygen-rich blood flow to flourish, like if we know that's the environment that a muscle needs, and then, through all this amazing neuroplasticity research that we can retrain the brain, we can rewire patterns and habits. Knowing these two things, I then started thinking, what kind of tool could I use externally? Because there's lots of tools that you can internally use to, work with pelvic floor dysfunction. And I'm a big believer in pelvic floor physiotherapy. And so this tool works such a complement to that form of treatment. So I started to play around with things. And, with 3 boys, we have all kinds of sports balls and everything. And so I just started sitting on a ball like a mama hen would sit on her nest. And I would get off the ball and I would just be like, okay, what does that feel like? And then I would, do some pelvic floor activation. And then I tried like a foam roller, almost, kind of straddling between my legs. And that wasn't quite right. And so I just thought, you know what? I am sick and tired of people not talking about this. I want a tool that I can create a platform to start to educate and inspire. And on top of that, I want to call it something as far away from medical and clinical as I can. I want it to be fun and sassy. And I want it to stop people in their tracks and say, you called it the what? Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. I started designing it, found a manufacturer, worked on the patent. So it's a design and utility patent. We launched it last April. So it's called the Cooch Ball for women, and lovingly called the Gooch Ball for men. It's a co-branded product. We have a special lining inside of the ball before the rubberized coating goes on that really interacts with the body in a really positive way. And here's the deal, ladies. It's a 3-minute a day practice. And I actually literally before Marni and I got on this podcast, I answered an email from a woman saying, Jana, I think there's something wrong with my ball because I can hardly stay on it for like 30 seconds. And so we went back and forth. And actually what it is that the discomfort you feel when you get on the ball, and there will be some discomfort, is directly related to how much health or the lack of health the tissues in your pelvic floor are experiencing. So for some women and men, they actually have to start by sitting on their couch or their mattress because sitting on like their kitchen chair or the floor is just a little too intense. And here's where the magic happens. When you sit on the Cooch or Gooch Ball, you're getting the release and you're getting the strength component all at the same time. Because in the educational videos that come with the ball, I teach you how to properly breathe diaphragmatically, picking up that grape which is the strengthening part. As you sit on the ball, the weight of your body responds to the makeup of the ball in a beautiful way where that nutrient-rich, oxygen-rich blood comes to the fascial tissue, the nerves, the muscles. And now all of a sudden the brain is like, wait, what is going on down there? There's like a little party happening. It's warm and it's fuzzy. And that's when you know change is starting to occur.
Wow. I love this. First of all, I love that there's this concept of a pelvic floor fitness tool.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to sweat.
It may make you sweat, but the whole point, right? Here's the point, ladies, is that this is all about, at the end of the day, this is about confidence and owning our sensuality and feeling comfortable in our own skin because that's what we deserve. That's what we deserve. And that's, at the end of the day, in my heart and soul, why I brought this product to the market.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing because, our process that we teach is reveal, release, rejuvenate, right? And the rejuvenate part is if you have an awareness of your challenges and you release it, you have to replace it, right? You have to be in action of what it is that's going to move you forward, and revitalizing and having a focus on fitness and health and function, and pleasure and receive and all those things, right? It's not like you just, and I think this is really important, ladies. Like, I think someone said to me once, "Oh, I thought when I got the boyfriend, then I wouldn't have any other challenges," right? Like, oh, if I just get the guy, right? It's just the guy. And then what often happens is when we bring this person into our life, we actually realize the places where we're stuck, right? That unconscious why we haven't brought this person in. And so I think if women are having these struggles, basically it's like, okay, that's not bad. And it's totally shiftable and changeable. You just have to focus and revitalize, and you're in creation with the Cooch Ball instead of reaction.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It is it's like a best friend. Like, it teaches you so much. I think one thing for women, or some women, I should maybe paint us all with the same brush stroke. But it's that whole concept of loving yourself before you can love someone else, and really connecting with our body might be something that we have never done in a real, kind of spiritual, conscious way. And the Cooch Ball and the education about the body is exactly that. It's simple little baby steps towards really discovering, who that that vixen is, that maybe she's out 24/7, but maybe she just kind of sneaks out every once in a while. You can have that confidence back in your life. So when you are ready to attract that person, or if that person is newly in your life, you can have this level of confidence.
So how does the Cooch Ball and the pelvic floor health actually help in the physical connection, in the intimacy area of the relationship?
So let me I'll use my own experience. Okay. So when you start to get more strength in your pelvic floor, control over your pelvic floor, there are some really amazing experiences that can happen with your partner. And ladies, just so you know, so this is a co-branded product, right? It's kind of a one size fits all for men and women. So my husband uses this ball literally every single day. And you know what was so, I kind of had to giggle, because he was actually talking about the Gooch Ball to one of his friends a few days ago. I was listening to him, and he said, "Oh yeah, like I can totally, if I'm not using it for a few days, I can totally tell." He loves to golf, right? He's like, "I can totally tell off the tee, my drives aren't as long." And so he's talking about it from like a sports perspective. In my mind, I'm thinking, I wonder if he's going to go like a little deeper than that, or just keep it in the sporting realm, which is a safe place to stay with your buddy. And then he says to him, "And you know what? Like, when I start to realize that things aren't as functional as I would like them to be, I just, 2 or 3 days on my Gooch Ball and I am like right back in action." And I was like, yes, honey, that good for you. Like, for a guy to realize that, they have pelvic floors too. And when those pelvic floors are too tight, how do we expect blood flow to get to the penis? Like, that's part of why so many men and so many relationships have maybe tripped up a little bit, is because men are so identified by their masculinity. And when their body is not working for them, they are just as impacted, as we are. And so the physicality of using this ball and how you gain strength, like I said, and control over your own body, sex actually feels different. The ability to orgasm in different ways will feel different, because keep in mind, what we talked about 20 minutes ago, that the pelvic floor is a part of our core. It's a part of a system. So it's that whole abdominal region with our, with our diaphragm that really becomes a part of, it kind of is like the star of the show. And now you're not just having pleasure in one area, but that one area being kind of woken up has created all this other possibilities in the physicality of, pleasuring oneself or with a partner.
I love it. It can be the new gift under the Christmas tree.
It can be. It can be,
or the menorah or wherever you put your gifts.
I had a call from a woman in New York State maybe 2 months ago, and she phoned and she said, Jana, my husband's birthday is coming up. And she said, I just noticed the Cooch and Gooch Ball. And she said, I would like to buy him one for his birthday because he's not as spunky as he used to be. And so she was kind of giggling. We were giggling. And she said, so I'm buying it for him, but it's actually a gift for me. And so I was like, that's amazing. I said, how old is your husband turning? And she said, he's turning 87. And I was like, oh, and I said, well, that is amazing. She's like, oh yeah, like he hasn't been as spunky. And so we need to like amp things up a little bit. So he's going to get a Gooch Ball.
Oh my God. That's freaking awesome. Okay. Last question. If you were going to give us like one tip or one little hint, from the wealth of knowledge that you have about like feel good, look good, live good, what bubbles up for you?
It's the fundamentals, ladies, the two things. It's breath, that diaphragmatic breathing. I mean, hydration could be another whole show, but here's what I can tell you. When we are properly breathing and when we are properly hydrated, all of the trillions of cells that make you who you are like flourishing like a field of flowers. And when our cells are like that, our organs are like that, our systems are like that, and we literally show up on this earth as the very best spectacular versions of ourselves. And so it's in the simple things that cost nothing, like air and water, where the magic happens.
I love it. I love it. It's all about breathing. It's all about hydrating. And it's all about getting your pelvic floor in tip-top condition. I love that. I'm so excited about my Cooch Ball. I have to share it with my husband. I didn't know I could. So this is very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so exciting. Jana, I am so happy that you came today. I was literally like so excited about our conversation. Ladies, you can find out everything you need to know about Jana and her pelvic floor health and the Cooch Ball, Gooch Ball in the show notes. And in the meantime, when you're breathing and hydrating, do it with some damn dignity. We'll see you next time in the den. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP, that's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes, and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Batista, and let's talk soon.